When we talk about, getting a job or building a career, we almost always talk about it from our own perspective.
Right. We're the mouse in the maze.
Exactly. We're the mouse in the maze. We're obsessing over these tiny little details like, should I use a serif font on my resume? How do I answer the greatest weakness question without, you know, sounding like a cliche?
I just work too hard. Yeah, that one. It's always about how to survive the system that's already there.
But today, we're doing something different. We are flipping the board over. We're not looking at the maze anymore.
We're looking at the people who built the maze.
We are looking at the architects. We've got our hands on this really fascinating, and I have to say, slightly terrifying document. It's an internal SOP, a standard operating procedure, and this incredibly detailed flowchart from a high-level headhunting firm.
And this is not, some generic how to hire guide you'd find in an airport bookstore. This is the real deal. From the context, the universities they name, the industries.
It's the 2 trillion twin-star sectors, yeah.
Exactly. It's clearly coming out of a very, very intense, probably Asian tech market. And it reads less like a guide for finding a person and more like, I don't know, a manufacturing manual.
That's a perfect way to put it. The title itself, Core Recruitment System Chart and SOP. It just screams process. It's like a systematic, almost industrial extraction of human talent.
It feels like a manhunt.
It really does.
Mm.
And the whole premise here, I think, is why this is so important for, well, anyone with a job. We all think getting hired is about luck or connecting with the interviewer or being in the right place at the right time.
A bit of magic.
A bit of magic, yeah. But this document just pulls back the curtain. It shows that you, the candidate, are being processed through this rigorous, almost mechanical system. They call it the L system.
The L system. It sounds like something from a sci-fi movie.
It does. Citizen, please report for processing by the L system.
It actually stands for the life cycle of the candidate. And today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to walk through that entire life cycle. We're going to use the flow chart on the first page of this thing as our map.
Okay.
We'll follow a hypothetical candidate. Let's call them subject X from the moment they're just a name in a database at stage L0, all the way through being processed, packaged, and finally delivered to the client at stage L8.
And I've looked through this, and the steps in between are truly eye-opening. We're talking about hidden grading systems based on your age, your university, even your mortgage.
And psychological tactics that are happening on those friendly phone calls that you would just never suspect. It's the industrialization of talent acquisition.
Okay, so let's open up the map. Let's start with section 1, the map and the mission. We're looking at this flowchart, and honestly, it looks like a circuit board. It is dense. Can you just sort of give us the lay of the land here?
Of course. So imagine a big pipeline moving from left to right. The whole system is split into two main engines running in parallel. On one side, you have the C series.
C for client, I'm guessing?
Exactly. That's everything the headhunter does to manage the company side of things. Getting the job orders, analyzing the industry, the sales part of their business.
Right, but that's not us. We don't care about the companies today. We care about the candidates. Product.
Correct. So we're focusing on the other pipeline, the L series, the candidate lifecycle. And it's all chronological. It kicks off with L0, which they call development and search.
So L0, I don't even know they're looking at me.
Not at all. You're just a name in a database, your profile on LinkedIn, your raw data that's about to be mined.
Okay, so L0 is the wild. They've spotted me. What's next?
Next, you're pulled into L1. That's the inquiry, or the first contact. This is the first major filter. If you get through that, you move to L2, resume construction.
Construction, not just submission. Interesting.
Oh, we'll get to that. Then comes L3, which is the deep profile interview, the second, more intense conversation.
Okay, so L1, L2, L3. But then looking at the chart here, it jumps. It goes straight to L5. What happened to L4?
That's a great catch. L4 is kind of a black box on the main flowchart. The notes imply it's all the internal administrative stuff.
So paperwork?
Paperwork, background checks, drafting the initial recommendation. It's not a direct interaction with the candidate, so the SOP guy kind of skips over it to get to the next touch point, which is L5.
And what's L5?
L5 is the high-touch relationship building phase. This is where it gets surprisingly personal.
High touch. Okay, so L4 is the boring stuff. L5 is where they try to become your best friend.
Got it.
And then you're in the final stretch. L6 is managing you through the client interview process. L7 is the offer confirmation.
Yeah.
And then L8.
L8. You're saying it in a way that makes me nervous.
You should be.
Yeah.
For a headhunter, L8 is the most dangerous phase. It's the pre-onboarding period. We call it Death Valley.
Death Valley.
It's that gap, that very fragile time between when you sign the offer letter and when you actually walk in the door for your first day of work.
Ah, the ghosting zone. The counteroffer zone. Okay, I get it. So that's our roadmap, L0 through L8. The map is on the table. Let's zoom in. Let's do it.
So I'm subject X. I'm at my desk, maybe scrolling through my phone, and it rings. It's an unknown number. I'm now entering section 2. The first filter. This is L1.
L1. The SOP defines this as the one-time talk, the initial screening call. Now, to you, it's designed to sound very casual, very friendly. Hey, got a minute. Saw your profile, thought of you for opportunity.
Yeah, standard stuff.
But on the headhunter's screen is a checklist. And the document calls this checklist the killer techniques.
Killer techniques.
Yeah.
Not helpful pointers or conversation starters.
Nope, killer techniques. It's aggressive language. It really gives you that battle plan feeling.
Yeah.
They are not there to chat. They're there to qualify or disqualify you fast.
So what are they killing exactly? Wasted
Wasted time, exactly. They need to hit a few points immediately. First, core competencies. They need your strongest functional skill and your strongest industry experience. But the fascinating part is how they measure that experience. They have a rule.
Okay.
It's called the recency and length rule.
Recency and length. Sounds like a physics principle. What does that mean?
The document spells it out. The longer, the better. The more recent, the better. So they want to see deep experience, but they also need it to be fresh.
Okay, so if I was an amazing software engineer 10 years ago, but I've been in management ever since and haven't written a line of code.
You're out. To them, that skill has atrophied. It's no longer a sellable asset. It doesn't matter how great you were back then.
And what about the other way? If I just learned a new skill, I'm super current, but I've only been doing it for, say, 6 months.
That's a red flag, too. You're shaky. They can't sell you as an expert. They want proven endurance in the specific skill the client is buying. They're looking for muscle memory.
So they're not looking for someone who could do the job or could learn it. They're looking for a reliable machine that is already programmed to do it.
Precisely. And speaking of reliability, another one of these killer techniques is an instant turnover check. They'll ask very casually, so roughly how many companies have you worked for?
And they're just doing the math in their head.
Instant mental math. They're calculating a ratio of your age to your number of employers. And if that ratio is off, if you're, say, 32 years old and you've had 7 jobs.
A big red light starts flashing on their dashboard.
A huge one. And they don't care why you left. The company could have gone bankrupt. Your boss could have been a nightmare. It doesn't matter. They see a pattern. They're filtering out so-called job hoppers before they even get to your qualifications.
That is absolutely brutal. So you could be the most talented person they speak to all day, but you've had a string of bad luck with a few startups, and you're immediately flagged as unstable.
Instantly. And the final goal of this L1 call, it isn't just to get information, it's to secure a commitment.
What kind of commitment?
The SOP is very clear. They must get you to agree to send your resume by a specific time. Not, I'll send it later. They need to hear, I will send it to you by 4 p.m. today.
It's a compliance test. They're testing to see if you'll follow a simple instruction.
It's a compliance test and it's a hunger test. And there's another layer here, a really strange emotional metric. The headhunter has to log the candidate's degree of acceptance.
Their degree of acceptance? How desperate I sound?
Essentially, yes. They literally give you a numerical rating based on how open you sound to being poached. If you're enthusiastic and eager, your score is high. If you're hesitant or playing hard to get,
Your score drops.
yeah.
And then to make sure you actually send that resume, they use what the document calls immediate reciprocity.
Right, the classic psychological principle. If I give you something, you feel a social obligation to give me something back.
So how do they do that?
The moment you hang up the phone, an email is already on its way to you. It contains a company introduction and a talent needs table. They're giving you valuable insider info right away. It makes you feel like, wow, this person is serious. They gave me something useful. Now you feel a little bit obligated to hold up your end of the bargain and send that resume.
It's a hook, a very calculated hook. Okay, so I fall for it. I send my resume by 4 p.m. I passed L1. I'm in the system. Now I enter section 3. L2, packaging the product. This is the part of the document where, I'll be honest, I got a little offended for all the candidates out there. They call it resume production.
It is production, because to the headhunter, your resume, which they call the original file, is just raw material. It's messy. It's got your personal spin on it. Their job in L2 is to smelt it down and forge it into a weapon they can use.
A product they can sell.
Yeah.
And they make a clear distinction between the internal version of your resume and the external version.
A huge distinction. The external version is what the client sees. And it is scrubbed clean. First thing to go. All your contact information, your phone, your email, your address, gone.
That's just business though, right?
Yeah.
So the client can't bypass them and just call me directly. It protects their fee.
100%. It's purely defensive. But they also strip out other things. Any specific salary demands you might have written, for instance. If you wrote, I'm looking for 50% increase, that line is getting deleted before the client ever sees it. They want to control the money conversation later.
They're curating the narrative.
Yeah.
But the wildest part of L2 for me wasn't the formatting. It was the rules of exclusion. These are the filters for who even gets the resume produced. This was something else. Let's start with the 2-year rule.
The 2-year rule. This is a hard filter on job tenure. The SOP states that if a candidate has a first-line background, meaning, top-tier university, worked at a Fortune 500 company,
They've got pedigree.
you've got pedigree, you are allowed to have up to 3 jobs on your resume that lasted less than 2 years.
So if you're from a fancy background, you get 3 free passes. 3, oops. Oh, I was just finding myself at Google free here.
Exactly. But if you are deemed second line, you went to a state school, worked at less famous companies, you only get 2 of those short-term jobs.
Only 2.
Any more than that. And you require a special exception report to be filed by the headhunter. You are basically damaged goods that needs a special explanation.
That is just the clearest example of how pedigree buys you leeway. If you're from the right background, you're exploring. If you're not, you're unstable.
It's classism baked into an algorithm. And it gets even more specific when you look at the age pivot. The document draws a very hard line at age 35.
Of course it does.
Eh.
The dreaded 35. What happens when you cross that line, according to this playbook?
If you are under 35, the rule is education is primary, experience is secondary. They're hiring your potential, your raw intelligence, the brand of your school.
They're buying the raw material.
Exactly. But the second you turn 35, it flips. Experience is king. Education is secondary. Your past performance is now all that matters.
So at 36, nobody cares about your GPA anymore. They just want to know what you've actually shipped.
That's the idea. Unless, and this is where it gets really granular with what they call school tiering, the document explicitly names certain technical colleges.
Right, these are specific schools in the market this document is from. Good schools, but maybe not what the headhunters consider the absolute top elite tier.
Precisely. And the SOP says that candidates from these specific schools are generally not collected.
Not collected. Like butterflies.
Like they're not even worth putting in the database
Okay.
unless, and this is the only exception, unless that candidate has managed to climb to a director level position at a top tier factory.
Wow. So they have a do not call list based on the college you graduated from 15 years ago, unless you've managed to defy their expectations and become a director anyway?
It's pure elitism codified. And there's another one, the management trap. This is for IT roles. It says that if you're an IT manager, you must have graduated from a national university.
Why?
The reasoning written in the notes is, experts are everywhere.
Meaning there's a huge supply of IT people, so they can afford to be picky.
Extremely picky. And the flip side is, if you're over 45, you're still in a hands-on IT role, and you're not in management, the document says you are discarded.
Discarded. Just thrown out.
Mm.
That's incredibly harsh. You're 46. You're a great coder, but you didn't become a manager. Goodbye.
It reflects a very rigid, hierarchical view of a career path. It's up or out. If you haven't moved into management by that age, the system sees you as a failure, no matter how skilled you are as an individual contributor.
You're a depreciating asset in their eyes. Okay, let's say somehow I survived this brutal culling. My resume is produced, my age and school are acceptable. I haven't been discarded. I now move to Section 4, L3, the deep interrogation, or as they call it, the two-time talk.
This is the big one. This is the comprehensive interview, and the goal is to build out the full candidate profile and analysis. This is not a friendly chat. This is a forensic audit of your career.
You mentioned in the outline this idea of the flow of years. That sounded ominous, like they're looking for crimes against your own timeline.
They are. The headhunter is trained to check your chronology down to the month. So if your resume just says 2010 to 2014 at one company,
They're going to dig into that.
they're going to ask, was that January of 2010 to December of 2014? Or was it December of 2010 to January of 2014? That's a huge difference in actual time worked. They're hunting for gaps of unemployment that you might be hiding between the years.
The Gap Patrol.
The gap patrol. And they're also looking for something they call group hopping.
Group hopping. What's that?
So imagine you worked for a massive conglomerate, like one of these giant Asian tech groups that has dozens of subsidiaries. If you moved from, say, the semiconductor division to the consumer electronics division,
Okay.
they need to know if that was an internal transfer or if you resigned from one part of the group and then got hired by another.
Why on earth does that level of detail matter?
It all feeds back into your stability score. If it was an internal move, you're seen as loyal, valuable, someone the company wanted to keep. If you quit one entity and joined another, even under the same corporate umbrella, you're seen as restless, a flight risk.
That is just an incredible level of scrutiny. And I was also struck by how they literally grade people in this section. The part about English proficiency and the marketability scoring.
The English grading is incredibly rigid. It's based entirely on your TOEA score.
For listeners who don't know, TOEA is a standardized test for business English, very common in Asia.
Right. And the SOP has these hard lines in the sand. A score over 800 is proficient. 600 to 800 is good. And if the job is in sales or purchasing or QA, any role that deals with international clients,
You must be proficient. No exceptions.
no exceptions. It doesn't matter if you sound fluent on the phone. If you don't have the piece of paper with the right number on it, you don't get the check mark.
It's pure bureaucratic efficiency. It's easier to check a number than to actually assess someone's skill. What about this marketability score, the M versus P score?
This is the headhunter's internal rating of how hot you are as a commodity. You get points for your education, your experience, your skills. If you score high, say 4 or 5 points on their scale, you are rated P.
P4. What? Priority? Product.
Probably priority or prime. The document doesn't specify. But if you score low, 1 to 3 points, you are rated M.
And M stands for marginal. Maybe.
Could be. But here's the key. If you are a P candidate, a prime candidate, the headhunter starts writing the recommendation email to the client before they even send your resume.
So they're already writing the sales pitch.
They know they have a winner. They know they can sell you. The entire point of the L3 interrogation is to find the selling points, the hooks, so they can craft that marketing copy before the product is even officially on the market.
Ivy League educated, 10 years at a top firm, proven track record. They're building the brochure for the human being.
That's L3 in a nutshell.
Okay, so I've been interrogated. I've been graded a P. Now, things get weirdly personal. We move to Section 5, L5, the high-touch friendship. the 3-time talk.
And this one, ideally, is face-to-face, a coffee, a lunch, and the tone does a complete 180. In L3, the headhunter was an interrogator. In L5, they transform into your career agent, your trusted advisor, your friend.
Is it a real friendship, though? Because the questions they're instructed to ask here, they feel anything but friendly.
This is the family background check. And
Right.
yes, the SOP lists these questions under the killer techniques heading again. They are instructed to ask about your marital status, your spouse's job, the ages of your children, the health of your parents.
Wait, the health of my parents?
Yes, and your housing situation. Do you own? Do you have a mortgage? And finally, your long-term life plans.
Why in the world does a recruiter need to know if I have a mortgage or if my mom is sick? That is a massive, massive invasion of privacy.
It is, but it's not about being nosy. It is 100% about risk management.
How so?
Think about it from their side. They are about to invest dozens, maybe hundreds of hours to sell you to a client for a fee that could be, $30,000, $40,000. They have to de-risk that investment.
So they're stress testing my personal life.
They're stress testing the deal. If they get you a great offer that requires relocation, is your spouse's career going to be a deal breaker? Do you have a huge mortgage that means you'll need an insane signing bonus, making you too expensive? Are your parents ill, which means you can't take a job that requires a lot of travel?
So they're not asking because they're concerned about my family. They're asking because my family could be an obstacle to them closing the deal and getting their commission.
They are identifying and neutralizing potential threats to the transaction. They call it family support confirmation.
Unbelievable. And this is also where they do salary counseling.
Yes, and they have a specific formula for it. They want you to break down your entire compensation package, your monthly base times 14 or 15 months, which is common in that market, plus any stock options, plus your average bonus. They want the total number.
Okay, that seems standard.
But here's the tactic. When they build your external profile for the client, they strongly advise you to put negotiable in the expected salary field, not a hard number.
Why would they do that? I've always been told you should name your price.
Because they don't want you to price yourself out of the running before the client has fallen in love with you. It also gives the headhunter more room to negotiate their margin. If you lock in a number too early, you tie their hands. They want to control that negotiation, not you.
Okay, and then we get to the rituals. This part of the document, it's so transparently manipulative. The SOP literally instructs the headhunter to take a photo together with the candidate and give a souvenir or gift.
It sounds so cheesy, but it's pure psychology. The stated goal, written right there in the document, is establishing a profound friendship.
A profound friendship based on a free pen.
Exactly. By giving you a small gift, a branded notebook, a coffee mug, and taking a selfie with you, they're creating a tiny social contract. You now feel a connection. You are their candidate.
It's like when a timeshare salesman gets you to hold the prize brochure. You feel slightly more committed.
Precisely. So when another headhunter calls you tomorrow, you might feel a little twinge of guilt. Oh, but that other person was so nice they gave me this mug. It creates a small psychological barrier that makes you less likely to work with their competition.
It's weaponized rapport. They're locking you in as their exclusive inventory.
They are securing their supply chain. It's all about loyalty. Your loyalty to them, not the other way around.
Okay,
Oh.
So we're best friends. I have my souvenir pen. You know all about my mortgage.
Yeah.
Now we move on. Section 6. The closing phase, L6 and L7. This is the client interview and the confirmation.
Right. So at this point, the headhunter's role shifts again. Now they are your coach, your agent, managing the final steps. L6 is the 4-time talk, which is the critical follow-up call after you've interviewed with the client.
Okay, and I saw in the notes they have a very specific timeline for this, the 1-2-3 day rule.
Yes, it's an algorithm for prioritizing their own time and effort. Day 1, the very next day after your interview, they call the hot candidates.
The ones they think are most likely to get an offer, the ones they can smell the commission on.
Exactly. Or candidates for a very urgent role. Day 2, they call the standard candidates. And day 3, they get around to calling the upgrade or speculative candidates, the long shots.
So if you're a candidate and you don't get that call within 24 hours, you can probably guess you're not on the hot list.
You are likely a day 2 or day 3 call, yes. And the philosophy driving the speed is great. The document says, the earth is flat.
That's a strange motto for a recruiting firm. What does that mean?
It means there's no way to hide from the competition. It's a global, flat playing field. Speed is everything. If they don't call you on day 1 to gauge your interest and lock you down, another headhunter with another opportunity will. They operate with this constant fear that if they snooze, they lose.
Okay, so what happens if the news is bad? The client says, nope, we're passing on subject X.
This is a really interesting piece of strategy. The SOP says that unless the client absolutely insists on doing it themselves, the headhunter must be the one to deliver the rejection.
Why would they want that awful job? Nobody likes making the rejection call.
Control. It's all about controlling the narrative. If the headhunter delivers the rejection, they can soften it. They can spin it. Hey, it went really well, but they decided to go with an internal candidate. Or they've put the role on hold for a bit.
So they're protecting my feelings.
They're protecting their asset. You are the asset. If the client calls you and says, yeah, you weren't technical enough, you might get discouraged. You might drop out of the job market for a while. You become a damaged good. But if the headhunter keeps your morale up,
They can pivot me to another job opening they have next week.
exactly. They don't want a broken product. They want a product they can recycle and sell to someone else.
That is devious
Ugh.
and very smart. Okay, but let's say it's good news. I got the job. The offer comes through. I've signed it. We're done, right? Champagne time.
Not even close. You have now arrived at the most perilous, treacherous part of the entire journey. Section 7, L8, the Valley of Death.
The pre-onboarding phase. Why is this so dangerous? The deal is done. The contract is signed.
The contract is signed, but the body is not in the building. This is that 2-week or 1 month or sometimes 3-month gap between you accepting the offer and your actual start date. This is where deals go to die.
This is where you get a counteroffer from your current boss.
The counteroffer. Or your spouse finally convinces you not to move, or you just get cold feet and decide to, I don't know, go travel the world instead. For the headhunter, this is the danger zone.
So what do? Does the friendship from L5 suddenly get very intense?
It becomes a surveillance schedule. The SOP mandates it. If your start date is a month away, they're required to contact you once a week.
Just a friendly, hey, how's it going? Still alive? Still planning on showing up?
Pretty much. If the start date is 2 or 3 months out, it's a call every 2 weeks, and then the frequency ramps up as the day gets closer. The guiding principle is prevent problems before they happen. They are probing for any sign of hesitation, any waffling, because if you don't walk through that door on day 1, they get nothing.
All that work. L0 all the way through L7, it just vanishes into thin air.
It's a total loss. And the process doesn't even technically end on your first day. The document briefly mentions L9 and L10, which is the guarantee period.
The warranty.
The warranty. Usually it's 3 to 6 months. If you quit or get fired inside that window, the headhunter often has to refund a huge portion of their fee. So they are still watching you, they are still checking in, making sure you're settling in, until that check has officially cleared and cannot be clawed back.
So they're watching you like a hawk until their invoice is safe. Only then can they finally relax.
Only then is the deal truly done.
This is unbelievable. Laying it all out, checkpoint by checkpoint, from L0 to L8, it just completely reframes every interaction I've ever had with a recruiter.
It's not a conversation, it's a stage in a process, a very well-defined and sophisticated industrial process.
Okay, let's try to pull this all together in our outro. What's the big picture here? When you step back from the flowchart, what are we really looking at?
We're looking at the complete commodification of a human being's career. A candidate is identified like a natural resource in L1, they're repackaged and refined in L2, they're graded and analyzed like a piece of equipment in L3.
They're strategically befriended to create loyalty in L5.
Managed through the complex sales process in L6 and L7, and then guarded like a shipment of gold bullion in L8 until delivery is confirmed.
There was one last concept from the notes that stuck with me, the iron triangle.
Right, the QQS, quality, quantity, and service. This is the headhunter's real value proposition. It's not helping you find your dream job. That's the marketing slogan for the candidate. The business, the iron triangle, is about balancing the quality of the candidates they present, the quantity of candidates in their pipeline, and the level of service they provide to the client.
And the candidate, we're just the fuel for that engine. We're not the one driving the car.
You're the Q for quality. That's your role in the triangle.
That is a very sobering way to look at it. We all like to think we're the protagonists of our own career story. But in this playbook, we're just a character, and sometimes a very small one. So I guess that brings us to our final thought for everyone listening.
Okay.
The next time a recruiter calls you, and the conversation feels very warm and friendly, and they start asking about your life. So, you're married? Any kids? Oh, you own your home? That's great. Long commute.
Ask yourself, are they just making polite conversation?
Or are they systematically filling out the data fields, first stage L5 on their internal tech list, calculating your stability and assessing you as a financial risk?
They're building a file on you. It pays to know what's going into it.
Stay employable. Watch your timeline, and please try to avoid the valley of death. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Yeah, see you next time.